We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
And we're wrapping up the year. Final episode of the Depraved and Debaucherous for 2023. So let's talk about your financial future. Ladies, talking to you. Because there are quite a few stories just this month that are sounding the bell on women that have been trying to go and stay single and continue the lavish lifestyle or the lifestyle that they want to have their career, have their cake and eat it too, and not depend on men to sustain or to supplement their income. Or if it is supplementing their income, that is to keep their income and use someone else's, another man's income as discretionary spending. So use what you want. Not really don't care about what you can do with the money. Just use it or spend it however you want. But at the end of it all, women are realizing that they're struggling with the bills. So here's what we got. Here's an interesting stat. According to U.S. Census data, 46.4% of the United States, of the people in the United States, are single. Did you know that? Wow. 46.4% of every person in America is single. It would have been much different back in the day. Like, I imagine it was never that high. I think it was around 30 million when I was growing up, say 20, 30 years ago. That's changed. For women, the number is even higher. Out of all of the women in America, over half are single. That's a shame. It's tragic. Now, I don't know how many women are young out of this particular census data, but yes, more than half are single. Over half of the adult women in America are single, whether widowed, divorced, or never married, but their concerns about finances are apparent. Now, we know about those that might have gotten into issues where bad relationships, toxic relationships, bad divorces, single motherhood can contribute to struggling to stay away from debt and to keep a roof over your head. But single women generally feel less confident about managing their finances. Concerns are much different from those who are married. And there are many potential reasons why single women face difficulties regarding attitudes about finance. And this is something we're learning about now, and we need to go and dig into the reason why. And part of it is because women who are single, young single women, many ways, they might have their own depravity and debauchery, their own level, which is not necessarily what men do, could be, a lot of the various areas of depravity and debauchery, fooling around. Like, both men and women do have their own situationships. They fool around. They have their fuck buddies, right? But then we also have those women that they're not going to do what guys are doing, where they might just go and, the casual hookups, massage parlors, strip clubs, all that kind of stuff, right? For women, it's also more about the lavish lifestyle, the debauchery of let's just go ahead and, for shopping or going out to dinner, going out for drinks, traveling, things that are happening that, of course, most guys are not going to be able to see or know what's happening. Fortune magazine talking about this, that they say a greater share of women, quote, say they are actively worried about money at least once a day compared to men, and women are much more likely to feel stressed about their finances. Now, of course, they bring in the story here about how wage gap and other workplace issues could be where women are facing, and that's where money becomes a key concern. But let's talk about the ones that are using it to supplement clout, status, or maintaining a particular lifestyle. Keep that in mind, too. And when they talk about the breakdown of who believes in what, 42% of married women believe in the ability of reaching their financial goals, compared to 37% of singles, 35% of divorced women, and 29% of widows. But let's talk about why it's tougher for a woman to be single in today's economy. So, beyond just living single, there's a story here from Go Banking Rates that talks about navigating the gender wealth gap. But even then, if you're making a certain amount of money that you're making, we have to really just realize where some single women are really going in and what they're doing now about the income that they're making. Because they're not where guys can be very frugal and very, very, very bargain type. Women don't get that opportunity in some cases to do that because I still think of the book Beauty Sick. I remember reading that talked about the fact that this particular writer talks about how women have to spend so much money to maintain their beauty, their appearance, their youth, and all of that in order to keep themselves at a certain level, and the kind of money that goes towards that, and the time they spend towards that as well. Which, I mean, you can take it into account, but I also think about the fact of the kind of spending that women do. Now, remember, I'm a part-time Uber driver, and so I have more than enough women that I see that will come into my vehicle and where they're going, where they're going to go spend on, where they're staying. Like, let me tell you, if they're going for a girls' weekend, they're not staying in a cheap place. And let me tell you, you want to talk about some really expensive shit. Think of how much girls spend on a bachelorette party. How about for someone that they know that's getting married, and they all decide we're all going to get together, bachelorette party, we're all going to go party together, and go through the whole deal, become the bridesmaids, all that. I have never, ever seen women go where they're coming out of like a cheap hotel or just some, run-of-the-mill place. They're spending some real money on an Airbnb, something lavish, or something that's very, very upscale. And where they're going is upscale shopping. Now, maybe this is just Palm Beach, but I'm just saying, upscale shopping, upscale, mimosas, all this stuff. Like, I'm going to tell you like this. I remember there was a couple of women that I had, 4 women together, staying in an Airbnb, a nice Airbnb in downtown West Palm Beach. Where was it they were going to for, let me remember. They had just gotten off the airplane, and I'm trying to think, what was it, the place that they went to, it was a Sunday brunch, I remember that. And it was like, was it Hive? I think it was Hive, right? And Hive is not a cheap place. Bakery and Cafe, yes, it was Hive. And there was a couple things in there. So if you go in there and you look what they got, the menu is not cheap. When you go in there just for breakfast and lunch, it's not over the top, but like still, you're talking about, $15 to $30 per entree. That's not mentioning the drinks. That's not mentioning the mimosas. All that stuff's going on top of that. Like if I go into the menu and I'm looking at it right now, you got wine selections. You got cocktails. Mimosas are $14 a pop. Palomas at $16 a pop. Bloody Marys at $16 a pop. That's not cheap. It's more about the drinks than less about the food. But enough of that. And so these girls, they were, I want to say they're European. And I know they still had their suitcases. And they had not been dropped off at the Airbnb yet. But the Airbnb, where they were staying at, it was a nice place. Probably spending, I wouldn't be surprised if it was $1,500 to $2,000 a night there. Now, it was 4 women, so I can see where it goes. But like that's just the kind of level of money they spend. And I've had bachelorette parties that were much more than that. And the weddings also just can't be at just a cheap place. Because if they're coming to do a wedding here, they're doing it at, oh my goodness. Like you're not going to the Jupiter Lighthouse. You're not going to any like small scale kind of thing. They're going to go to the, Boca Raton Country Club. They're going to go to the Jupiter Resort. Like they're going to go to some high scale stuff. Trust me. It was just like that. So the kind of money they're spending just for that is quite a bit. And I remember doing the same thing driving for women to Fort Lauderdale or Miami. And the level they're going to spend and what they're going to go out and go do, they're just not doing it on the cheap. Not to mention they're trying to go to Palm Beach and they want to go ahead and meet guys over there. The kind of money that they're going to spend to go to Buca or China, come on now, right? Or Bucan. Like they're going to go there and they're going to get noticed by guys over there. But, just to get themselves in, they have to spend quite a bit of money just to get in there in the first place. Or the Ben, Like, it's all this lavish stuff. Just saying, if the women have the chance and the opportunity in the right places, they will. You know why? Because part of the reason is that where women, the most single, most eligible women, are moving to the places where all the action's at. So, for instance, there's a story that came out from Business Insider that talks about how Miami and El Paso are the most expensive cities for single women renters compared to men. Now, single women tend to spend more of their income on rent and more likely to be rent burdened. 30% or more of their income on rent than single men. According to a Rent Hop report, looking at 50 U.S. cities, the average single woman living in a studio apartment was found to be rent burdened in 25 of those 50 cities. While solo men spend at least 30% of their income on rent in only 8 of the cities. El Paso, Texas was the most unaffordable place for a woman to find for rent. Meanwhile, Miami, second most unaffordable. The median rent for a studio apartment in Miami, $1,986. A studio apartment, almost $2,000 a month. Get the fudge out of here. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? $2,000 a month for a studio apartment? What, 7,800 feet? No, come on. In El Paso, women almost spent 2 times more than the average man in rent as part of their income. Miami, 1.7 times more. New York City is the most unaffordable rent of any city in the country, and women will go ahead and live single in the city, by the way, where median earnings for New York are $49,000, but some people are willing to go and spend, on average, $3,308 a month, which costs women almost 80% of their total income. 79%. For some women to go and say, okay, we're going to have rent $3,000 a month. And by the way, how many of them are going to be skimpy when it comes to heat or electric or air conditioning or water? We're just thinking the extra bills, the extra parts to it. I mean, how much of that is included? We don't know. Or if it is not. And for someone, some guys might go and continue to just do the huff and go, walking more than other places or take the subway, but there might be a safety issue for women. So they might going to feel compelled to say, well, I'm going to Uber everywhere or taxi it. And just cost more into it. Like, there's all these things that are going into account as to the cost issues, but also because the women want to be where they want to be. They're not going to go live in Des Moines, Iowa, or, Cheyenne, Wyoming. Come on. Where the people are, where the things are at, where the clout chasing, the status seeking, in many cases are at. And those are the ones that are able to do that. That's not counting the ones that are single mothers, the ones that are divorced or widowed. There's a lot of other women that are in that realm there, but really, you think about where women are going right now and what they cannot afford, what they cannot do. So the story's been out there. Single women are more rent burdened than single men, and it's going on more than you would imagine. And other cities that were rent burdened women are more often median rent for apartments. In Detroit, $895. Boston, $2,350. Oh my goodness. Philadelphia, $1,265. Los Angeles, $1,750. San Diego, $1,975. Then there's Nashville, Houston, Baltimore. Who's going to live there? No. It's fascinating what we have right now, but that's where we're at. Of the 50 city list, the most affordable studio rent was in Wichita, Kansas, $585 a month. But single women spend about 21% of their income for it, men 15%. So women are already burdened by the rent. And since they're not living with boyfriends or living with girlfriends or just living with anybody else, want to live alone, the risk of doing that and going, solo income, where guys can definitely be much more frugal and spend a lot less and not spend that much and not really care about their habitation being too decorated or too grandiose, right? I know for me, if I had a 700 square foot studio apartment, I can make that work. I could definitely make that work if I had to. Hell, you could give me less space. I could probably do something with that. Just saying. These are things that people are not really realizing that are becoming such a burden, such an issue about. So Renhop put out their singles index. And they made the point that with housing prices skyrocketing over the past year, many young professionals are now faced with high rent prices as single income earners. By the way, nobody can afford houses. Very few people are able to go and afford houses. They're talking about like the average age of someone being able to afford a house is in their late 40s. Like just a starter home. It's getting bad. So, and the point of what Pew Research says, the gender wage gap has barely narrowed. Now, translating to the housing, the gap means it's harder for women to buy or even rent a home independently. But we don't know about what's going on about where the extra parts of where it is. Let's keep that in mind too. But what it comes down to for where some of the women are spending on what they're going to do right now, right? Because the other thing too is that you also have to think about the fact of how some women are able to go ahead and, become influencers, do everything for the gram, and can find better apartments, find better places. And so social media has really ruined the idea for women to say, well, they got to live within certain means. No, with social media, everybody realizes they don't want to live within their means. They don't want to do that at all. No one wants to. Plus, the other thing too is that inflation has come across, and there are a lot of people that have been talking about how their rent's been, doubled or tripled. And if there's nothing that any woman can do, a single young professional woman, to try to get themselves out of that mess, I mean, they're stuck where they're at. Meanwhile, they see women like, let me tell you, I'm still amazed by this. Bad Baby, who's the Danielle Bergoli, who was a Boynton Beach native. I mean, being known as the Cash Me Outside girl from Dr. Phil. Do you know she was just moving out of oh my goodness, $7.89 million Florida estate. What in the world? She's made, is she over $8 million? Oh my goodness. This is crazy. And by the way, originally bought the house from NFL star Jason Pierre-Paul for $6.1 million, turned a profit on it. It's a Boca Raton home, by the way. She's 20 years old. Incredible. I just don't even know what to say about it, but this is it's ridiculous. Anyway, moving along. The other thing you got to think about is that for men and women, it's all dependent about where they live. Because there are a lot of women that are deciding, well, they're not going to just live anywhere. Okay. I know the girl that just moved from California to North Carolina. She wants to go back to California. She was living there in San Francisco. And when you talk about the level of struggle they have, well, let me tell you like this. Guys, if you're looking for sugar daddy, or if you're looking for sugar babies and you're looking to be a sugar daddy, you also should look at where these areas are, where the highest rent is, and where where women are looking to go and be, where they should be seen, where they should be at. So Miami, San Diego, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Baltimore. I'll tell you what, if you look on those sites, especially if it's seeking or sugar babies or sugar daddy, I'll tell you this for a fact, that you'll see more women that are single and available in those cities that'll put themselves out there to try to supplement their income, to keep their rent, to keep their places. So they're willing to go to these spots and make that happen. And of course, then there's the appeal of even newer apartments and all these different concierge services that every different apartment complex there is. And I have more than enough women in just downtown West Palm Beach and some of the apartments they're living in that, they're going out with Uber, this and that, and they're living in certain places, but how can they afford it? Because they're not making enough to go and live within their means to be able to go and keep that up or be able to live the lifestyle they want. They want to go and DoorDash it. They want to go ahead and order in, or just go ahead and, get a good coffee or an espresso or a latte or whatever you want. Hit the Starbucks on a regular basis. Hit the restaurants or the lunch spots like a Pura Vida or, Field of Greens or something like that. You just can't. It's just too much. Or just salad. Come on. I mean, there's some of these spots that are just that I'll see women there at, and like just the regular spend, and like, of course, not wanting to cook, not wanting to go and do this and that. Is this all women? No, no, of course not. But there's a particular amount that I'm trying to speak out about right now. Guys, be aware in 2024 more than ever that women are going to be looking in some ways to go ahead and, offer themselves to be dated because they're trying to find more guys to supplement their income. And they might be more willing with who they're going to go out with and a little more open to who they'll go out with. These are things you got to think about and consider. So another story comes out about how men outnumber women, but only on one coast. There are more guys in large urban counties in the West, but it's vice versa in the East. So women outnumber men in the largest urban counties east of the Mississippi River, along the eastern seaboard, and in the deep South. West skews male. Here comes the 5-year estimates of the 2022 American Community Survey, the most comprehensive source of data on American life. And along large urban counties, the areas where adult women outnumber adult men, noticeably were Baltimore, New York, Atlanta, and Philly. And there's also Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, where there's 80% more women than there are men. The biggest imbalances of men to women were Colorado Springs, Colorado, Austin, Texas, and California counties that are home to San Francisco, San Jose, and Bakersfield. Guys, if you're going into thinking about what you're going to do with the future of dating, which we've talked about quite a bit, especially when it came to Tinder and their $500 plan, which was ridiculous last week, I talked about that. What else do we look forward to in 2024? So women are looking to go ahead and try to get themselves out of debt. The women are trying to continue their status, their lifestyle. If the economic conditions don't work out, they can't find better work or whatever it is professionally. Doesn't matter how professional and how, successful they are at their work. But if they can't keep the income together and be able to make it work to stay in a high rent apartment or be able to live the lifestyle that they want, and trying to go ahead and take advantage of guys and their good nature, maybe some, not all, right? But think about it. If you're going out with a girl now, you got to ask yourself, what's the intent? And it's funny how someone will talk about, I went on a date, this and that, and like the certain things that they want a guy to go and do for them. Like, for instance, okay, if a woman goes to the restroom and you're already wrapping up dinner or lunch or whatever it is, and they love it if you're already pulling out your credit card and paying for the bill before she comes back. Ooh, that's so cool. Really? I think women just feel like the guys are just social experiments now. Or they don't want to be with men for any particular serious reason. That's right now there's a trend that's been going on for a while. Now it's just going to really hit its peak. The mirrors Justin Timberlake trend. So like 3 or 4 women will be like in front of a computer or in front of something, and there's a phone camera that's pointed at the girls, but they're looking in front of the camera, and there's a guy in the middle of the camera to their foreground in the background, right? And then they turn around all at once and look at the guy or the boy. And this is supposed to be an indicator where the first woman that he looks at is the one he has a crush on, supposedly. Things like that. So guys, are they just going to not go out with women so much? Are they going to just stick more to the gaming? Are they going to start getting into their AI girlfriends? Story came out from the Sun newspaper about how experts are warning that AI robots will soon replace human partners. Virtual girlfriends are now being filled by AI, making single men lonelier than ever, and could pose significant risks to real human relationships. And when I look at who they have in terms of the AI-generated girlfriends, I can see what they're talking about. And where some of the girls that are on here, too good to be true, but like, seriously, guys are going to be like, oh my goodness. And, if this can work for some guys, then this is something that's got to be concerned. That guys are not going to be willing to go ahead and date a real woman anymore. And where will all those women be without these guys? And I'm not talking about like all these women are going to be like that, but some are going to be a bunch different. I mean, there are eligible guys that will get caught up in this. That's unfortunate. So virtual girlfriends are starting to blur the lines between real and virtual companionship. Are starting to become more like physical beings, according to a data science professor that talked to the Sun, Liberty Vittert. They're almost discernible from a real human. They look like real people, and they're shockingly good when it comes to replicating human interactions. And physical AI robots can satisfy humans emotionally and sexually. They'll become a stark reality in less than a decade. And artificial girlfriends are operated through sophisticated algorithms and AI technologies designed to simulate human interaction and companionship. And these virtual chatbots will offer realistic and content-aware conversations and can even gauge the emotional tone of the conversation. And through machine learning, they can continuously improve their ability to understand what their users want, adapt to individual personalities, and refine their conversational skills. So go above and beyond what the movie Her did. And it could be even more than that. Watch out. And women, you're going to get, missed out because of computers. That more men will get detached from real life relationships. And men with real partners are getting increasingly involved in virtual relationships. And Liberty says that, quote, not a lot of men are going to end up staying with their partners who have this wonderful relationship with their AI girlfriends. But women are not realizing the fact that, you know what? You're going to lose guys, and the eligible guys, you're continuing by just abandoning them. And guys not having the chance to go ahead and have that romantic interaction. I mean, no one's taking the time to go and get to know each other. No one's taking the time to go and be romantically bonding with each other and building a relationship. Like, who's getting to know each other? No one. Everybody's out for what they want. It's very greedy. It's unfortunate. And part of it is that, you know what? Guys are already kind of used to the fact of AI girlfriends or virtual girlfriends because they feel like they're being virtually catfished by the women that they're talking to on the dating apps. There's a story from The Guardian that talked about how people are still single and the happiest they've ever been life after dating apps. So guys and girls are saying that right now. So one person talks about now, I'd rather slam my dick on a car door than get back on the apps. And this person says that since I quit in June this year, I've been having casual things with people I met online. It's not much, but it's fun at least. So what are they doing with those other nights when they're not with anybody? No long-term interaction, no long-term connection, no long-term affection. Another person, I was able to be open, vulnerable with myself when the right person came along. And they met the love of their life at a book club 2 years ago. Another person says that the pressure's off. And after quitting 2 years ago, the pressure was off. Started exercising more, making time for friends, focusing more on himself. And this is the best way to find love. No longer concerned with how I was coming across visually or digitally, I became more present and open to something happening in reality, which did. Went to a gallery opening with a friend. While we were there, someone was mentioning it was a gig in the city. And then he locks eyes with the best dancer there. They made some shapes, swapped numbers, been dating ever since. Another person says they save a lot of money from doing this. So I've been off of them for 3 or 4 months. I got a lot of time back by not having all these text conversations and going on dates. It says this, the emotional part of me has curled up in a ball on the couch, gone numb and switched off. The hangover from online dating. Standards are too high, far too easy for people to move on to next and next and next. You slowly get crushed by the glaring series of rejections. On the plus side, as well as time, I saved a lot of money by not going on so many pointless dates. Dating is very expensive, and the current climate of insane interest rates and increasing cause lives, not everyone can afford to play the field. And dating apps need to be redesigned from the ground up in order to provide better mental health and higher probability of finding a good match. Well, that's not going to happen. As I said, online dating is going to lose to AI eventually. And what will happen to AI or the online dating companies? They'll start going in the AI themselves. Watch. They'll get in the virtual. Matter of time. A matter of time. I would be concerned about all this, folks. I would be very concerned. This is not good. It really concerns me a lot. But what are we going to do, right? No? I don't know. Hopefully we can figure something out. So anyway, one more story I got to bring up, which is really, the epitome of the praise and debaucherous as we wrap things up. Pornhub is going to now pay more than $1.8 million after admitting to profiting from sex trafficking. Oh, look at that. Allure Holdings has reached a deferred prosecution agreement to resolve a charge of engaging in unlawful monetary transactions, including sex trafficking proceeds. Oops. $1.8 billion. And Allure's role actually was they were hosting videos and accepting payments from girls do porn. And now the adult film production company charged and eventually convicted of a range of sex trafficking crimes, coercing young women into engaging in the sexual acts on camera that were then posted on Pornhub and other adult sites without consent. Look at that. Pornhub, great example of being the highest level. I mean, seriously, another level of the praise and debaucherous, more than anything else. So anyway, thank you for listening to the program, and be with me the entire year, all the episodes. Of course, kingofpodcasts.com is where all my content's at, if you want to go and check it out. And, of course, you can find me on all social media, Twitter, now X, Facebook, or take your pick, right? Trends, Instagram, TikTok, it's all there, at King of Podcasts. So we'll come back in 2024 with more. And remember that we are all a little depraved and debaucherous.